starting with Ole Miss, a 10-point road favorite at arch rival Mississippi State. This game carries an over-under of 55.5 points, and it kicks off Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. We know this one as the Egg Bowl, one of college football's best rivalries. I love that it takes its own exclusive time slot on Thanksgiving. It's the only game that day, at least in college. I love that it gets its own time to shine. Last year, Mississippi State upset Ole Miss in Oxford. It's a nasty rivalry. You can bet that the Rebels had this one extra circled this year. Not just, hey, this is state, it's hate state week or whatever they're saying down there in Oxford. They remember getting bit at home last year, you can bet. Interestingly, 6 outright upsets in the last 10 years. So I think that's what makes this really exciting. The Egg Bowl is always weird, Kelly. It never goes the way that you expect. So let's try to articulate what we expect from this game. And then those of you listening out here, maybe you can go with the opposite or whatever. The Mississippi State, they dismissed head coach Zach Arnett. But they did cover last week against Southern Miss. They did show a little bit of get up and go. You know, those teams sometimes get that interim coach bump. I don't know that it lasts this long, though. I personally think we could be talking about blowout territory for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, not afraid to run up the score when he can. Last year's result, giving some extra juice, meaning Ole Miss might put their foot down if they are able to run that score up, especially on the road in Starkville. I'm not a big trends guy, but if you're looking at some of the late ones, the under has hit in the last 6 games, and the road team is actually covered in the last 8. So a lot of success for road teams, not too much scoring between these two teams that know each other very well. For Mississippi State, quarterback Will Rogers, running back Woody Marks, they did return last week for the Bulldogs, and they'd each missed a few games with injury. Marks started the year strong, but Mississippi State's been really, really inefficient running the ball since. It looks like it's going to be a one-and-done for offensive coordinator Kevin Barbay. I never really understood that hire in the first place. I know that it was a very difficult situation. You know, a lot of stuff was going on in Starkville, but they went completely away from what their identity was, and surprisingly, it didn't work. And I say surprisingly facetiously just because he had a good thing going. I don't quite understand why they didn't try to at least keep some of the same tendencies in there. They went completely away from it. Just has not worked out for them this year. Ole Miss is really their only deficiency in this game is run defense. But again, Mississippi State's offense, especially on the ground game, is just so inefficient. I'm not really all that concerned about it. And Jackson Dart's playing really well against everybody not named Georgia at the moment. Kelly, what do your numbers say about our first big-time rivalry on this slate?
I'm going to say this a lot this week, Brett. I love this game. Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday. It's, you get football, you get family, you get food, all that stuff. And we always see the same, side of the family on Thanksgiving, kind of mix it up, Thanksgiving, Christmas. But my extended family that I see on Thanksgiving always wants to talk NFL. And I get it. The NFL is king. I know. It always has been. It always will be. I completely understand. And I indulge them. I talk NFL with whatever's going on. But in my heart of hearts, I'd much rather be going all in on the Egg Bowl. It's fun. This is a heated rivalry game. You said it. I mean, the last couple of years of this, you just look at it. It's the personalities in this game. It's the celebrations. It's the implications of what it means. Every single year, I love this game. The model has it Ole Miss minus 12.5. It's an 81% win expectancy. I want to talk about Ole Miss's resume really quickly. We're recording this on Tuesday night. The committee just released their rankings. I think the committee has them number 12, if I'm not mistaken. This is a team that has 2 losses. 2 top 5 power-rated teams, Georgia and Alabama, both on the road. First, let's just talk about that schedule for a second. What did folks in Oxford do to someone at the SEC conference office? That's brutal to have those both on the road in the same year. But the average top 25 team, forget that. Most teams in the entire country, I don't care average top 25 or not, most teams are going to be expected to lose at Georgia and at Alabama. So why is Ole Miss being treated like just any other 2-loss team by the committee? They're not any other 2-loss team. These 2 losses are two really, really good teams on the road. I have the Rebels number 9 in my most deserving rankings. So it's 9, 12. Oh, Kelly, what's the difference? Why does it matter? Okay, I agree with you. Maybe it is semantics. I just like to see teams get their due credit when it comes to these rankings 1 through 25. And maybe number 9 versus number 12 doesn't matter this year, but next year, 9 versus 12 might matter quite a bit. And if we're trying to understand how the committee ranks teams and why they rank them the way they do, I'm much more worried about process, not outcome. And the process, to me, needs some refining. So I'm hoping at some point the committee starts giving the Rebels the respect they deserve. They probably won't because they're not going to change their process this year, but this is a team that I want to point back to probably next season and say, hey, as we get closer to CFP ranking time, a team with a profile of Ole Miss, they need to be given more consideration than just any two-loss team because that's not what they are. But that's enough of that. Predictive metrics, looking at this game, Ole Miss does have a decided advantage on both sides of the ball. They have the number 15 offense. That's the best unit in this game. The Mississippi State offense, they're the worst unit in the game. They are currently ranking a season worst number 80, Brett. Even though this game is in Starkville, and this is a huge rivalry, and you talked about it at the top, situational thing, like the model's not accounting for situations. The model's not accounting for rivalries, for emotions, for all that stuff. The model does suggest laying the points here with Ole Miss. Bottom line, I have Ole Miss minus 12.5. It's a 19% chance that Mississippi State makes it 2 wins in a row in the Egg Bowl, which fans in Starkville would be excited about.
Yeah, and this is the tricky thing about talking about these rivalry games is you hear the typical throw the records out, and that is true. That you have to take that into account. So it's a little uneasy talking about a road favorite, especially a double-digit road favorite in a rivalry like that. But yeah, I have to agree with your model. It's the Rebels with the points for me. I may even try to look for alternate lines here, just because I really do think that even against a big-time rival, your desire to beat your rival only goes as far as your talent is able. And I don't think that Mississippi State is all that good of a team. I don't think they have a lot to play for. Left on the board here. I know they're playing for eligibility, but do they really care about the Music City Bowls? Is that what they're really fighting for? Or is it just, we just want to beat Ole Miss here? If you look at their points scored, just to highlight your 80th ranked offense in the country, points scored against Power 5 competition, 10, 3, 13, and 7 since the bye week. Ole Miss's defense isn't stout, but I do believe it is good enough to keep them under 21 points. And in this case, I think Ole Miss would be able to move the ball at will. They have decided advantages, as you said, on both sides of the football. So this is Ole Miss with the points for me.
How's that Mississippi State win at home against Arizona in week 2 looking now, huh? Like at the time, you were like, oh, okay, sure. Arizona's a pretty darn good team now. Mississippi State does have that win on the resume. The problem is they don't have too many others to go with it, as you mentioned. So just an interesting, I was looking at their schedule as you were running those off because, the offense has been struggling.
Bad. Really bad.